I'm a child of Monty Python. I love their layers. There's the silly, there's the sublime, there's the intellectual. There's all these layers, and just when I wrote Black Dynamite, I wrote that with that kind of the thought. Those are the things that I liked, and there was the physical component to it, to their comedy, and that's always impressed me. There's a few things I even kind of lifted from Monty Python here, but it's just there's a lot of things that I've grown up with that I wanted to pay homage to in this.
First of all, I just love that, of course, Michael, you popped your head in here just to see how these folks were reacting.
Well, that's one of the things that's the most fun, because I get a chance to see the reactions from different places, and it's always interesting. I guess it's kind of like my version of theater, right? So, you get those responses, different responses off of things. So yeah, I kind of peeked in. Yeah.
Well, then I will ask you about your calculations of this response, both as a director and as an actor. What stood out to you about what folks were picking up?
Well, it's interesting because, I do a lot of things where I kind of try to fake you out, but like say in Atlanta, where it's really very Bible Beltish. During the time where Ime, who comes out, who, I kind of fake you out thinking that Jesse Lee might be a man. But when he comes out and he kind of starts speaking, since that part of the world is so used to that kind of speechifying, that they buy it. They kind of buy it until it's like, it's obvious.
I don't feel judged or anything, but no. Okay.
But they kind of go along with it. But there's a lot of different things. There's so many things that my wife, she snuck in with me, and so we always notice the differences. And now this audience listens real hard. So, so a lot of little nuances, little nuggets that I kind of tuck in for the third viewing, you guys are catching on the first viewing. Yeah.
May I ask, as the writer of this as well, what is one of those little nuggets that you were like, oh, okay, y'all, I see you?
Well, I knew the kind of audience I had when he mentions I wrote the darn thing and I can't remember. Well, when he mentions early on that this town, it's damn babe. What was the name? What was it? I'm drawing a blank. What mentioned that the Indian names, the town names, yeah. So, yeah, Cherokee Flats, nestled in the Choctaw Valley, yeah, so because it's delivered in such a way like he really means it, and it's like, and then some places they're like they don't quite get it, right, and so you guys are right on top of that. Yes, and that sounds like white man's land if I ever heard it. That thing. Yeah.
Well, that is the thing about this film. This film is a film that you are layering in a lot of things. You are obviously having fun with the blaxploitation era, but also really making a true Western as well, and also just layering in things that you kind of have to get.
Well, yeah, and I was lucky to have a cast of amazing people, just amazing human beings who happen to be actors. Like when I got somebody like this man right here rooting the whole thing and the heart of it, and he's the first person I went to because I really wanted to make it work. I mean, it's a delicate tightrope because I do have messages that I genuinely want to leave people. And I've been very happy that that's been happening. Messages of redemption and forgiveness, which, I really take to heart. And if I can do that with a comedy, then so be it. I mean, that's really, part of the whole thing. When you have something to say and leave people with stuff. And I'm so happy that people are leaving with that. But, it's so important that you have a cast that can deliver people to these places, because you're going from laughter to something that I really want to say, and when you have somebody who these people who's got all of that, then you can make that happen. So yeah, it's a weird balance, but I was just blessed with the people that are sitting here with me, and the other ones who couldn't make it, unfortunately. But man, I'm just so happy that things are going the way that they have.
Absolutely. Well, Glynn, I want to ask you about, getting a script like this and understanding that idea that, this character is someone who's going to provide the gravitas, the whole reason why Johnny is an outlaw. He's trying to avenge this death. What was it that stuck out to you about this story?
Well, first of all, it was my favorite genre, which is a Western. These are the props I stole from the show. And so I was really happy to be asked to be a part of it. And here's what I didn't really realize. I've known this young man for a long time, and always enjoyed his work, and he's a ass kicker, I never realized he was so silly. And so I had to figure out, how are we playing this? Because this is silly. And he said, no, man, no. But he has such attention to detail. For instance, the mutton chops that I wore, those were his idea. And he came into the dressing room, the makeup room, when I was getting the mutton chops put on. And I had a whole different set of mutton chops. He said, no, those mutton chops are not right. Let's do it like this. And he did a whole very specific design. And that's how his eye is to detail of stuff. I was really impressed. I said, damn, yeah. Michael, I'm impressed. Which I was. And so that, I was aware then that my role was just that, of gravitas, of trying to anchor the message, one of the messages of the movie, and that the best way to approach that was from a very real place, not to go for any of the laughs of it, but indeed to set up what the laughter will be later, and that I have really nothing to do with, but I was very happy with the way it came out, and this guy was pretty cool with his silly self.
Well, Erica, that's sort of the opposite then for you, because you are intended to bring a bit more of the laughs, if you will. But that doesn't mean that she knows that. But you as the actor do. So what did that mean for you as you read this script and understood, okay, what is this character asking me to handle?
It's weird because until now I thought I was the straight man. No, I actually am very, very clear that I was meant to be one of the laugh later characters. And I like that. I like having, these juxtapositions of characters like Glynn with characters like mine. And she, had her moments where she was a bit over the top. but it was real. But it was like, when you get your heart broken, it's like you don't know what to do. Like, I want to slap you, but I still love you a lot. So it was a lot of the, and I had a lot of fun. And it was great because I feel like my direct sort of straight person was Anika. She was the serious sister, and I was just kind of, we have our morals and our values. We are clearly revered by the town as, a family that's got it, got it together. She's super smart and everyone looks to her for advice. And then I'm just a little bit more emotional. So, yeah. And I was drawn to that. I thought the script was hilarious, and I'm a big fan of Blazing Saddles. And so when I read the script, that's the first thing I thought of, and I thought, oh my gosh, I get to be a part of like the new school Blazing Saddles. I'm in.
Well, listen, we definitely have to get into that a bit, but Chris, I don't want to leave you out here with your initial reactions to the script and what you made of Brett Clayton.
I was just thrilled that Mike offered me a job. I didn't really. Mike called me and told me he had this thing going and asked me if I'd play the villain in it. And he said, I'll send you a script and all this stuff. And I'm like, send a script if you want. But yes, I'm in. And Mike, I love you, man. And this guy, we met he came and did a day on this little movie I was doing in 12 years ago down in Baton Rouge, and they got him to come and do a little cameo on this little movie called Philly Kid. And I got to do the scene that it was he and I in the scene. And then, so this is just a completely unrelated story, but so we exchanged info and whatever. Hey, great meeting you. And I didn't talk to him for 5 years. And then I was in this movie called Shot Caller, and at the premiere, Mike and Gilly are there. And it was like, oh, hey, man, how you doing? And, a couple of texts after and stuff, but, nothing. But it was always like, we should work together. And then, God bless him, he called me up and said, I got that thing that we're going to do if you do it. And of course, I always said, yeah, of course. And I'm always the bad guy in everything. And my social media says that guy who died in that movie you like. And but everybody was having so much fun, and I'm I'm the one guy in the movie that you really don't. Well, there's a couple, Barry too, but you don't really want to lighten that guy up too much, because he's you want to hate him. But then at the end, you let me do a couple little things, and so I could get some laughs before you took me apart. It was just, but that's what's great about working with Mike is he's, if you go, hey, well, it doesn't really make sense that I heard them talking from, it's like, so we did this whole riff on that, like, how did he even hear me? And then the next guy, and it's like, son of a bitch, come on. And we just made a whole thing out of that. And it works because it's the end of the movie and everything's getting wrapped up and we're about to toast beers that everybody has, but Blazing Saddles was one of my favorite movies, and I knew that we were making a movie that was going to be one of those things that had legs. It was going to go on because there's nothing else like it, and that's what Blazing Saddles was. There was nothing like that, and it just became this iconic thing. And I think that's what we got here. And it was. What was the question? Was there a question?
Quite frankly, you did answer it, so I was in here quite satisfied.
Yeah, I loved it.
All we know, the most important thing is that Mike doesn't actually have to send you the script. He will just show up anyway.
Show up, yeah.
Well, that actually leads us to a great question from David C. up in here. And it is a question for you, Michael. Do you have certain actors in mind for the characters, or is the casting purely organic? How do you like to work?
Well, sometimes I reverse engineer it, I mean, I always had this man, as my father, I was like that. I wrote this with him in mind. And then and actually, I will think of someone and then kind of tailor it to that person. So I luckily got everybody I wanted because, I mean, you know, Chris doesn't understand. I've watched everything he's done, and so I'm a fan of Chris. I think he's an amazing actor, and so I'm constructing it for him. So even writing that, knowing that he can deliver comedy, he's done sitcoms, and so I know he gets the comic flow. And Erica is freaking one of the most amazing, like, comedic actors I've ever seen. If you've seen her work, I mean, and so I already knew what she could do. I take that back because she always surprises me on set. And sometimes she'll get this little gleam in her eye, and I'll just go with it.
Roll camera.
One more, because she'll just go. I'm just like, because I know she's gonna come up with some. When she kind of went berserk, and I had to keep a straight face. Man, that was no fair. Because I didn't know she was going all the way there. Nobody did.
That is the only problem when you're directing and acting.
Yeah. But pretty much, you know, I write with people, and I'm a child of Monty Python. I love their layers. There's the silly, there's the sublime, there's the intellectual. There's all these layers, and you know, and just when I wrote Black Dynamite, I wrote that with that kind of the thought. Those are the things that I liked. And there was the physical component to it, to their comedy. And that's always impressed me. There's a few things I even kind of lifted from Monty Python here. Like, if you really study some of their stuff, like some things from Life of Brian, where there's one of these things where it was Jehovah, you know, you're saying the Lord's name in vain. Jehovah, you're gonna make it worse than yourself, and it's like, how can it be worse? Jehovah. If anybody knows that, so I kind of did something. I'm paying homage to a lot of things in there where Johnny Black says, "How could it be worse? You're fixing to hang me for killing a hat." If you play those side by side, it's the same rhythm. But it's just, there's a lot of things that I've grown up with that I wanted to pay homage to in this.
Well, you led me exactly where I was going. You know, there are so many inspirations to this. I know we did mention kind of the blaxploitation aspect, but then you do pay tribute to some very specific Westerns, if you will, and also very specifically have some cameos. From some of our Western heroes, from Fred Williamson and the late Jim Brown, getting a chance to pay homage to their film and to have them on set. You know, what did that mean to you?
Oh boy, Jim Brown and Fred Williamson were two of my biggest heroes growing up, and Jim Brown was closer to me than my actual biological father, and the fact that this was his last performance, it kind of chokes me up at the end of the when I see it, because we spent so much time, and he'd retired. He just did this for me, and that was his. Even though you couldn't hear his line at the end, but he and Fred said we like to say our own dialogue at the end, and you know, Fred said the boy done good, and Jim Brown says he sure did. Yeah, so that was his. That was his. He was a hero to me, and you know, and for him to, you know, honor me like that was very, very close to my heart. So it's usually I'm pretty, you know, I mean, I'm still, as you know, it's almost like I forget that moment's coming up and he's saying goodbye to me again. So I mean, yeah, that's, yeah. So, but yeah. So there's homages, and there's a lot of deep homages that I would expect people to possibly kind of uncover like later down the line. But there's a lot. We've done there's I wonder like if anybody's noticed them. Like Glynn. I love the westerns. There was a morality there. I miss that in '70s and earlier filmmaking and television, where we had a morality and there was messages. And so I want to go back into a time where that is kind of expected and not strange. There's I know sometimes it's a little testy nowadays because people like to be a little outraged from it's like they're trying to find the outrage. But I think you lose a lot when you don't use these tools to deal with things. I mean, in the same way that Mel Brooks used, Springtime for Hitler, right? I mean, you can put things in a context and it's something that's very serious and put it into a place of laughter and in a way that you can deal with it. Like the subject matter, I wrote this based off of Black Wall Street. And there's very many stories that tragically went that direction. And even though we're making light of it in the movie, a lot of those stories, and it's close to 100 of these instances, and the majority of them started in the same way. That WWRBBM, we understand Emmett Till and everything else, that you could have a catastrophe that's linked to that. But there's a way we could look at things. We're artists. We can, that's what we do in the world. We take, we make people look at things through art in a different way that they can accept it or look at it. Dismantle it, defuse it, whatever. But I don't want to be on a soapbox, even though it looks like a soap. But that's the intention,
No, that's exactly right, and it does actually lead us to a question from Justin Jarrell, who did note the idea that, of course, this is not your first film in this genre that does use some of the blaxploitation era, pay homage to it. But what makes this form of storytelling important or useful? And what is your favorite aspect of working this way?
Well, it's not just the blaxploitation. That's a very like the movies that we just referenced. None of those are blaxploitation. It's the Western genre as a whole. It's movie making as a whole. It's and kind of, just like what Chris was saying, you would accept someone stepping out of somewhere, but when I remind you that this is a movie convention by him going, wait a minute, how did he hear me? So it brings you back to another, and so I'm making fun of tropes and setting those up, like I'm trying to do where you normally would expect my character to get his comeuppance when he's exposed and now he can talk and now so we're conditioned to know, okay, here's where he takes, here's where he comes clean and he's and that he's like exposed and ridiculed and everything else. Because I'm trying to bring you there, and then there's a twist to it, and so that thing that you didn't think was, that you kind of discarded, where the things that you saw early, they sneak back, and when it's unexpected. So I try to use convention to my purpose as well, conditioning to my purpose, to storytelling. So it then actually resembles the normal paradigm. But I think when audiences are a lot more sophisticated these days. And so you got to my feelings, you got to write and you got to make movies for a sophisticated audience who has seen movies. And now we can laugh at our conditioning to some degree. I think that's how you kind of breathe some fresh air into it. And so, and I think, you know, our actors, you know, they read that and they go, oh, wait a minute, this cleanses the palate a little bit. So you don't, you know, so you're accepting, or you're, you know, of what's happening, or you're looking forward to what the next thing might be, because I've taught you to pay attention, you know. So that's the idea.
Absolutely. And when you're making a movie like this, because it is so layered, you know, that was the idea. You're layering genres. You are taking us through a journey that is, as you mentioned, not necessarily expected. Robert Fisher, actually, I'm going to use your question. You know, what creative challenges did you encounter on this project, and how did that help you grow as an artist? And I actually asked that to all of you.
You want me to start?
I'll let you start, Michael, and go from there.
Well, the creative challenges, I'd never been on a Western set, much less direct one. so that's a challenge. And, you know, and like with movies, every department is, you know, they feel that it's a movie about their department, right?
Yeah.
So you know, so the horse, they were like, oh boy, they were like, the horse folks are unique people, and they care a lot about horses, and even there's like, what, I forget what they're called, but like a horse psychiatrist, kind of, like there's. I forgot the name of this. I'm like, oh, okay. But like, the horse can't be run 3 times in a row, and you've got to stop, and then it's got to be walked, and it's a horse, you know. But I can't just be like, yeah, it's a horse, man. And aren't they like? But you can't ask the horse. But anyway, because
it is an actor horse.
Yeah, but there are challenges that you don't see coming. But I feel like I love logic puzzles. And if you got a great crew, and I had a great crew, you're gonna win. There's nothing to bicker about. That's what, you know. So I knew I was gonna win, and everybody's had such a wonderful attitude. But yeah, there's gonna be challenges. That's just, but they're gonna be overcome. So but those things, weather, things like that. To shoot this movie in 21 days, yeah, you know. So well, thanks. But you know, the guy who had the most lines, the lead guy, the lead actor, he's cool. I mean, he does everything I say. So like,
Very nice that you have him under your thumb.
Yeah. So, you know,
Helps.
You know, he'll rehearse with me. He'll stay late, and he'll send people home, but he'll still work. So that's one of the things I had in my pocket. Yeah. You know, he's very obedient actor.
You'll work with him again, maybe?
Yeah. You know, and the writer would just change things when I needed it. So, you know, it worked out. So they yeah. So that's how you can get it done in 21 days. Everybody go home. I'll be here. Just y'all go. I'll see y'all tomorrow.
Glynn, were you as obedient?
Absolutely. No, it's, you know, it's like I said, my favorite genre is Western. So, you know, anytime that I get a chance to play in that world, you know, I jump to it. You know. And you're always wondering, like you said, you know, if the horses are going to act right, you know, hit their mark, you know, and the Wranglers were great, you know, and those are the small things that you don't think about, you know. But these horses and Wranglers, they know their work, you know, they know what they got to do, and it's amazing, you know, that you say action in that horse goes to it, you know. And I'm a horseman, you know, and have been for quite some time. So that was always refreshing, you know, and get to show off that part of my talent, I guess, you know. So, you know, there are certain perks in this business that come in different ways, you know. And for me, it was just, you know, it's a Roy Rogers moment, you know, or And those are the guys, Roy Rogers or, Gene Autry or the Lone Ranger or whoever was your hero when back in my day. To play in that world, is always a bonus. It's like really cool. So you get there, you twirl your gun, and you wait for them to say cut.
Well, there were many times I would forget to say cut because I would watch this man and I'm just like, and he's like, oh, sorry, cut. Because I mean, he's just such a wonder to watch, and I'd be like, did I write that? They felt like his words. I'm like, did I write what he just said? Because he was such an amazing actor. I mean, I was just so, man, it's such a pleasure working with this man and watching him and learning, just being around him. I've known him for years. That's why you see I wrote, I literally, I would have changed the script if you weren't the dad. Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to point out Pete Antico back there.
Hey, Pete.
That was one of the stunt coordinators, and there's been an ongoing thing. Like with Pete, I killed you like 6 or 7 times in Black Dynamite, and we tried to see how many times we can kill him in this. We killed you about what? We beat you up real bad. I shot you in the belt buckle. She windmilled on you. He killed you in the bank, and we just kept killing him like all through. We killed you about 7 times on this one.
That was actually what I was going to say was one of my biggest creative challenges, because every day he would show up and he put on this fake body with like pecs and like muscles and stuff, and I was like, how am I going to be attracted to that? Play that. That's weird. But I figured it out. I prayed about it. I meditated on it every morning in my trailer, and somehow I was able to make it through. But it was also intimidating because it's like He-Man, and I weigh 125 pounds. So like, I didn't want to upset him. And there's always like this sort of struggle, and this is my own stuff, not anything that you've said. Don't hurt me. It's just like, how far does one go, because I can go there. But like the first like couple of days, you're just kind of trying to feel it out and see what kind of director you're working with and make sure you're not like overstepping your boundaries. But I think we had, and I'm trying to remember what scene it was, but there was a specific scene because he kind of had this like, every time we came on set, and it was him thinking in all these different boxes, like as the director, as the producer, as the actor, the lead actor, and all this stuff. And so he had, resting killer face sometimes, and I don't think he knew it. So I would not want to ask stuff. I would just, kind of like tiptoe around it. But like there was one thing that happened, and I might think of it and just like blurt it out later. And he laughed. And I was like, oh my God, he laughs. And that's when I realized we can probably like do stuff. And so we did stuff.
Erica, I've got to say I'm glad you prayed about it, because as the saying goes, God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers. And I'm so grateful you were able to be there on this project.
Amen. But Michael, when he says he's going to work with you, and I'm so glad that you shared that story about him saying that he wanted to do a project with you, because he said the same thing to me, and it was, I don't even know how many years before Outlaw Johnny Black it was, but it was just kind of one of those things where it's like, we're going to work together. And I was like, okay, because everyone in LA is going to work together, right? But then he called me out of the blue, and I was like, is this guy butt dialing me? So I answered, and he's like, I got the script. We're going to work together now. And I was like, for real? So I read it and I was like, oh yeah, we're definitely going to work together. But he's one of those people, like, if he says it, he means it, he does it, and it's done very well. So I'm honored to have been a part of this and to have gotten a chance to work with him and everybody.
Chris, real quick before I hear your challenges, I do want to hear, Erica, for you, when you read this character on the page, what stood out to you the most?
The fact that it made me laugh out loud. It is very hard to make me laugh out loud because comedy is what I do. So I always look at comedy from an extremely skeptical and judgmental place. And I'm looking for what's wrong. Like, well, that didn't work.
Like, y'all thought that was funny?
Yeah. But like I sat down just to read a few pages before going to yoga. And I missed yoga because I had to read the whole thing because I laughed out loud within the first 5 pages. So I made some tea and I sat down and I read the whole script. And I was just so impressed because writing is something that, like, I can do short form, like sketches, but it's not my ministry to do, like, full long form. And I was just so impressed by how he was able to just bring it all together. And I recognized a lot of the nuances that he put into the script. And I was like, this guy's really brilliant. I want to be a part of this. So that's what stuck out to me. I like good writing. I just like good writing. And he is really good.
Chris, for you, that creative challenge, what was it about this character, the story? Obviously, now you know, and you kind of maybe knew before, but Mike knew that you had the chops to do it. But what was it about this character that really spoke to you and that you recognize, okay, this is an opportunity to do a little something, something?
Well, I've gotten a lot of, we were just talking about this before, playing a lot of baddies. And the reason that I play, because to just give you my entire story now and take about 30 minutes, I used to be like, I came from sitcoms and did all right, and then my life went off track for a few years. And so I blew my life up. I was a homeless heroin addict for 6 years, right? And so when I finally got my life back in 2004, I moved to New Mexico because I stopped in Taos and I said, I just want to live here. Forget LA, forget the business and all that stuff. I'm just going to focus on my recovery and not die, right? I'll get a little job building Adobes and shit, right? And so that was my plan. I finally prioritized this recovery thing, and my life got better. And the reward for me there was that was the year that New Mexico started their tax incentive to bring stuff, so they pulled me back in. But it wasn't my priority, right? And I opened a treatment center, and I just had a whole much sweeter life going. But so productions came through New Mexico. I was a big fish in a little pond. Everybody became an actor overnight, right, to hire on for the local hire roles that were available, and they made up their little bullshit credits and but I actually had done a ton of stuff at that point, and this is back in 2004. So productions would come to the state, and they'd have like Book of Eli, they'd have Denzel and Gary Oldman and Mila Kunis and everybody but the local hires, that's what I would get to audition for. And who's left except people that die, people the bad guys, the people that Denzel's going to take out and stuff. So that happened over and over and over again in all these movies. So I got to be in a lot of big movies, but not that big, not that main character. But sometimes I would get on a movie for weeks and weeks, and just have this, I'm like a blurry deputy in the background or something, right? Played a lot of bikers and a lot of bad guys. So I liked doing that. I liked playing those parts. But one of the things that I kind of had to learn the hard way was, and you were just talking to me about that, was avoiding that tendency to be a bad guy, that we were talking about how somebody somewhere told me about it's not that barking dog that's scary, because it's that dog that's just looking at you. And so I really kind of try to keep it down. Like I want to come off like a guy that can blow your head off and not even increase my heart rate. I just think that's scarier and more interesting. And it's that thing, if you want to get somebody's attention, whisper, and so I try, because sometimes my tendency is to, really come at somebody, right? You get so pissed and angry about being a bad person that it gets away from you, and then I end up just looking scared. So I just bring it down. And so I try to just be smaller and smaller, and then I don't know, it just seems to be oddly scary.
That was my favorite part of your villain, by the way.
Huh?
That was my favorite part of your villain, by the way. Just how you downplayed it. I was like, this guy could blow like any minute. It was really great.
Well,
Beautiful
thank
to
you.
watch. Yeah.
Thank you.
No, Erica, you're totally right, because you're just waiting for it. You're just waiting for that moment where, like, eventually he's gonna explode, because he is so, as I said in the introduction, dastardly. You know that there's lots of bad there, but like, how bad can it get?
And he has these moments, like a few times during the movie, where you see the temperature rising, and it's like, oh, it's there, and then he goes.
It's kind of like a bad guy that's had therapy.
Yeah.
That's scarier. Yeah. Thank you
Still
for
making the choice.
Exactly. What happens the time he doesn't make the choice? Anywho, let's talk about the movie that actually happened. But I did want to ask, because Michael, this is at one point this was part. The idea for this film was part of a trilogy. The idea that you were going to explore different eras of the blaxploitation genre, different genres, kind of around this. And we did have a question from Tyga here about seeing a Black Dynamite 2. But I kind of want to expand that further as to what you want to do next. Is the horror movie still on the table? Like, what is it that you want to do after this?
Well, I'm actually in pre-production for a movie I'm directing. Like now, I just came in this morning from pre-production, but with the whole Black Dynamite world, there were 3 or 4 movies I wanted to do in that, which Black Dynamite being the Shaft, Superfly-ish type of thing with the hypersexuality, that whole thing. But then I wanted to do the Western, but then I wanted to do a third was the horror, the Blackula-ish type of thing as well, to play with that one. So those are the 3 that I intended to do that were circa 1972-ish, and that had those textures and everything. But I continue to do other things. Like I'm about to do a action I'm in pre-production to do an action comedy now in Atlanta. Again, I'm directing and I'm cool with the lead guy. He's that thing. But I got a really cool cast going on there too.
That's kind of the beauty of a movie like this, is the beauty of why we're here today, is, this is what you have done here, and cannot believe that Black Dynamite was in 2009. Like, okay, it feels like it was like yesterday, but also you've done so much with that franchise in general that like we've seen quite a bit. But what you've done is kind of like revolutionize the business a bit too. You really, as I mentioned in the intro, paid homage to what we were doing before, but also created a new lane, created so many more opportunities for folks to see and do and be in things that we, I speak as another Black person in this business, don't often get a chance to do. When you think about, I want to take you again back to that moment with Fred and Jim on the set when they say the words, boy done good. How does it feel to know that you've built this thing that is bigger, with gigantic as well, with your production company? What does that mean to you?
Well, I mean, it's weird. Like, I don't ever look at it like that. I just keep looking like ahead. I don't feel like I'm anywhere near where I want to be. I think I have a lot of things that I'm very excited about that's in the works, that I think have the same, dare I say, nutrition with it, and action, and I want to do things that excite me as a viewer as well. I mean, there's a lot of formulaic stuff out there that doesn't excite me. I'm happy that things that I like, other people like too. I'm very happy. You guys tell me I'm on the right path. When you're, I mean, it's like you never know. I mean, it's like you raise a child to the best of your ability, and then that child's on its own. And so the fact that you like my child is like, oh man, I'm overwhelmed. So yeah, I'm gonna keep making children, and hopefully you'll like all my children. But that's the thing. It's like I'm blessed to be able to do what was in my heart. I mean, I feel like, man, like we're all like we all ran away and joined the circus, man, and we're making a living at it. Man, that's a beautiful thing. So I mean, working together, I don't even understand that when people are bickering on set and all that. I don't get it, man. And the thing I'm super happy about is like every day that we were on set. I mean, Grips and Electric, they were asking for scripts, and they were bringing their families. They said, I've never brought my kids to a set before, and these are things that mean a lot to me. And like, I think the second screening I had of this movie, a producer called me the next day and said, Mike, after seeing your movie, it spurred me to call my mother. I hadn't spoken to my mother in 8 years. Now we talked and we're getting together. And when he told me that, I was like, there it is. If that man, who's a producer, as jaded as he may be, and how he may look at things from this industry, if that man could be encouraged to do that based on what he saw in the movie, I'm doing the right thing. So, that was my biggest validation.
I'm not gonna. I can't give any greater validation than that, but thank you all for giving a little extra there too. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much to Michael and Glynn and Erica and Chris for sharing a little bit of your craft this evening. And of course, this film is already out, so please encourage all your friends, family, brethren, cousins, everything to go see it and seek it out. So thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.